What's going on, everyone? So the San Antonio Spurs are going to be a very interesting team this season. Obviously, the expectation isn't championship or bust or anything like that. The expectation isn't a team that people even necessarily think will make the playoffs. Could they make the play-in? Could they, maybe sneak into the playoffs through the play-in? Sure, right? But the expectation is to start taking some real significant strides. That's why you bring in Chris Paul. That's why you bring in Harrison Barnes. This year, in many ways, is a development year. This year, in many ways, is about kind of growing and helping the young guys. Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson, unless they end up trading him. We'll see how that goes. Victor Wembanyama, right? Stephon Castle, right? All these guys, you want to start seeing them taking that next step, taking that next stride. Talked about it repeatedly. Best decision the Spurs could have made this offseason was bringing in Chris Paul. Right? Outside of like getting Giannis or Jokic or something like that, Chris Paul was the best thing they could have done. Not because he's still, superstar point guard Chris Paul. I mean, he's still very good. But it's because of his development history and like what he's done with guys like SGA, for example, and how good he is out there on the basketball court, how easy he's going to make things for Victor Wembanyama. I mean, Victor is never going to have it easier than he does with Chris Paul. Unless Chris Paul can turn, one of these guys, Stephon Castle, into like a version of him, right? But it's also like there's very few like old school point guards, like pass first point guards. A lot of them are more in the mold of an SGA, Ja, right? Like guys like that where they're almost two guards, right? They're more combo guards than they are point guards, right? They're not just like out there just to solely facilitate and go drop 10 points, right? Like Chris Paul care less if he drops 10 or he drops 30, but he wants those 10 assists, right? Like, and look, Chris Paul's going to get that and maybe more. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Chris Paul leads the league in assists this season. Just because he's probably going to get 5 assists a game just on lobs to Victor, right? Just by like putting Victor in the proper position and dumping the ball to him, right? Chris Paul is going to have a very easy time because of Victor, but Victor's also going to have a very easy time with Chris Paul, right? And I mean, this is a team that I wouldn't be surprised if, I think bare minimum, they're going to be a team that you're going to have to beat, right? Like last season, even with Wemby and as great as he was, and to their credit, they were much better towards the back end of the season. But for 80% of the league, you saw the Spurs on the agenda. It was a dub. You were like, we're gonna go in there, we're gonna get this dub. I could see this season not being like that, right? And it shouldn't be like that this season. They have talent. Again, I don't think that they have enough talent to win a championship, but you never know, right? Like, you get in the playoffs, a couple dominoes fall your way. Victor Wembanyama takes some real strides. Like I've said it before, I think Victor last season as a rookie was arguably a top 15 player. And I don't think it's that crazy of an argument. Now, I think if he moves into like top 10, I still don't think they're there. But if he moves into that, like if he's the best defensive player in the NBA and he can go and get an average 28 to 30 a game, especially with Chris Paul, I don't think is that far-fetched. And he's having like an MVP level type season and there's an argument of like, oh, maybe he's top 5 in the league, right? Like, then yeah, maybe you're talking. But I also think it'd be more than Chris Paul and Victor Wembanyama, right? Like Devin Vassell, what does he look like this season? Right? He was 19 and a half points, right? But you need more from him. You need better efficiency. You need to start seeing him taking those leaps. Going for, like, if you want to be a contender, right? If you want to be like, one of the better teams in the Western Conference, they're going to need to see Devin Vassell go from like 19 to 23. I'm not saying that he has to be a 30-point-a-game guy or anything like that. And look, him going to 23 points, not that great. It's only 2.5 more points than he averaged last season, Right? You make one more three, and then there you go. Right? So I don't think it's that far fetched, but you need to see that. You need to see him start to get better control of the reins here from a basketball standpoint. But he's also hurt, and he's not supposed to be reevaluated till November 1st. So that could pose a problem for the Spurs. Right? Because you might, and that's just when he's going to be reevaluated. He can miss, a month or two, and you don't want to rush him back. Devin Vassell even said he doesn't want to get rushed back. Right? Like, so he could miss 2 months of the season or a month and a half of the season. And it's just, and then now he's got to get back, he's got to get his legs under him, and got to get reacclimated, and you got the team, and you got the new players, and he wasn't playing in training camp. Like it could also get a little clunky. But like you look at like Keldon Johnson. I can see Keldon Johnson kind of starting in place of Devin Vassell while Vassell is out. Keldon Johnson just had a body transformation. He lost a bunch of weight. On top of that, he was working on his athleticism, his lateral speed, right? His reaction, his first step, right? Like his coordination, like all of those things. And he already was a guy that could go get you 20 on a night, right? Like, so can he start taking some real strides here for the Spurs? Because you're going to need more, like if you really want to kind of get in that contention status, or you really want to be, a 48 to 50 win team, you're going to need other guys to start taking some real strides and having some real success. You need the Vassells, the Keldon Johnsons of the world to kind of start taking those leaps. Either both or at least one, right? Because again, if Keldon Johnson's coming off the bench and he's giving you 15 a game and that's his role and he's that sixth man, just vacuum score off the bench, that's fine. That's great, right? But you also need Devin Vassell to be able to come in and give you some good efficiency and kind of be that second guy. Right? Who's going to be the second? Wemby is the guy. Who's going to be that second guy? Vassell was obviously, again, he averaged 19.5 points, but, there's like, he's the second guy. And then there's like, no, he's he's the second guy. Right? Like that's what you need Vassell to be. Or Johnson or somebody. You need somebody to step up and he's the second guy. Him and Wemby are on a tear. And start getting in the conversations of duos and stuff. Man, like, where does Wemby and Vassell rank as, far as duos go this year? Oh, man, they're top 5. Like, you need that if you really want to kind of get in some real stride. Now, if you're happy to just make the play in and whatnot, and again, like, the Spurs seem very aware of the situation here. Right? Again, big development here. That's why you brought in Chris Paul. That's why you brought in Harrison Barnes. You're not looking at this as like, it's championship or bust. We don't win a championship. This season was a failure. It's not that, right? But you do have competitors on this team. Chris Paul is not gonna be happy winning 22 games. Right? Like Chris Paul also historically is just not that guy. Right? And the turnaround that he has and the win shares and stuff that he brings to teams when he goes, right? Like Chris Paul's there to help in the win column as much as he is at the development department, right? And how many wins can you get? Because look, Chris Paul, if this was prime Chris Paul, this was, Clippers, early, Lob City Clippers, Charlotte maybe even, like, if it was one of those, like, Chris Paul's, then yeah, like Chris Paul would probably be your second guy behind Wemby. But he's not. He's, can't rely on him for game in and game out for 40 minutes a game. Probably don't even want him to play that much. Right? You're looking for him more to be that playmaker, get guys that you need the ball. Right? He can still go get you, 10 to 15 a night. Right? You have that occasional, wow, Chris Paul dropped 25 tonight. But like the Chris Paul that's going out there and giving you, 20 and 10, that Chris Paul is not going to be there, right? Like, is he the best point guard in the league, Chris Paul? Him and Darren Williams days, long behind, long gone. But you brought in these vets to come in and really have an impact. Harrison Barnes, I love the idea of Harrison Barnes. Just like with Chris Paul, he's going to really help this team take some strides. He's a guy that doesn't take away from your stars, doesn't take away from your young talent. He's a guy that knows his role, plays his role excellent, right? Doesn't need the ball in his hands. Of course, he can go make a play for himself if he needs to. Right? He can put the ball on the deck and create a little bit, knock on, like, especially that little elbow, right? Like, he's more than capable of doing it. But you're not asking him to do that. He's not really expected to do that outside of, like, on occasion. Right? Like, it's more so, hey, you brought these guys in to kind of mentor the young bucks, be the vets, help us win some games here. But I would be shocked if they are anywhere beyond the first round. I wouldn't be super shocked if they, depending on how the team plays, Wemby is, and all that stuff, if they make the play-in, win their play-in games and are in the playoffs. But I think that's as far as they go. If they make it to the second round, I would genuinely be surprised. But however you feel, whatever your thoughts are, I love to hear it. So let me know down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Do you agree with my points? Disagree? Do you think they're not a championship team? They're not making it to the conference finals or anything like that. But they are a team that you're gonna have, like I mentioned earlier, you're gonna have to beat. You're not just gonna walk all over this team. It's not gonna be just cakewalk. It's not a free win on the board. Again, they won 22 games last season. They were a free win on the board outside of 22 times. That means 60 times they were easy money, right? But again, however you feel, whatever your thoughts are, love to hear it. Let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. Helps me enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one.